week 7 of the fantasy football season. Here's a few tight ends I have as sleepers this week. The first tight end, Rondé Gatson of the Los Angeles Chargers. Last week, I know Quentin Johnston was out and targets had to go somewhere in this Charger offense. And Gatson, he was a beneficiary of that, and he's available in 98% of fantasy leagues. So this season, haven't seen much from the rookie tight end. Week 3 was a good game for him. 5 catches, 46 yards, 7 targets. Then weeks 4 and 5 really didn't do much in those games, under 4 fantasy points in both. And then week 6, it was a good game at the Dolphins. 7 catches, 68 yards, and a fumble loss with 8 targets. So he did a good job except the fumble in that game. I know the Dolphins, their bad defense obviously can't stop anyone, but this week in a matchup versus Indianapolis, that's a middle-of-the-pack defense this season. I think Gatson could find some openings in the zone. Obviously, he's a big tight end. That could be a matchup problem for linebackers or safeties, depending what they put on him. And obviously, teams are going to roll attention to Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, and Quentin Johnston, where Gatson could have some soft coverage. So this week in a decent matchup and possibly a high-scoring game, Gatson's a sleeper. The next tight end, Michael Mayer of the Las Vegas Raiders. That doesn't look like Brock Bowers is going to play, from the comments from head coach Pete Carroll. Makes sense to give him another week rest this week, have the bye in week 8, and then you get Bowers back in week 9. And also, we know this Raider team, they're not going to go anywhere this season. So this week, a tough matchup at Kansas City, but it's a good matchup script for Michael Mayer, where they're going to be chasing points. And last week, after coming off the week 5 concussion and not playing, he had a big game in week 6 versus Tennessee. 5 catches, 50 yards, and found the end zone on 7 targets. So like I said, this week, Kansas City, I know, is a good defense, but this could be a game where there's a lot of garbage time in this one for Michael Mayer. And he was a high draft pick a few years ago, before obviously they took Bowers in last season's NFL draft. So right now, while he's out there 96% of fantasy leagues, and him and Geno Smith had some good rapport in last week's game, I think Mayer's a decent sleeper option this week. And the final tight end, A.J. Barner of the Seattle Seahawks. A lot of people sleeping on Barner still. Out there in 84% of fantasy leagues is A.J. Barner. And weekly, he's going out there and putting up points. I know he's not getting a lot of targets. I know he's not getting a lot of receptions. And most people probably don't think it's obviously sustainable for him. But he don't need to do a lot to put up fantasy points. And we've seen it this season. Week 4 at Arizona, 3 catches, 32 yards, a touchdown. Week 5 versus Tampa Bay, a breakout game. 7 catches, 53 yards, 2 touchdowns. And week 6 at Jacksonville, 3 catches, 71 yards, including a 61-yard catch. So him and Sam Darnold are locked in. Darnold on key plays and in the red zone, hitting A.J. Barner. And A.J. Barner, like I said, he's a tight end going out there making plays this season. Scored double-digit fantasy points 4 out of 6 games this season in PPR leagues. And this week, in a grinded-out type of game on Monday night versus Houston, I think once again, anywhere from 8 to 12 fantasy points is a good possibility, Barner. So that's a few tight ends I have as sleepers for week 7 of the fantasy football season.